and welcome along to DR Sports breaking news. Chelsea manager Thomas Tuchel has been sacked. Honestly, when I got the news, I was driving in my car actually earlier on, and the news broke. I was shocked. I was genuinely shocked. I did not see this one coming. Of course, Chelsea played last night in the Champions League against Dinamo Zagreb, a game that, you know, they're expected to win. Dinamo Zagreb got a horrible record in the Champions League, and they lost the game by 1-0. And even though, after the game, of course, there's a lot of people in shock, and people were talking about, Thomas Tuchel's got to start stepping it up soon. This is not really good enough. There was no real sort of vibe flying around that he was going to get the sack. I mean, everybody just thought, well, on to the next game. Fulham at the weekend for Chelsea. Dinamo Zagreb, they've got to come back to play at Stamford Bridge. There's other games ahead. They've got a fairly easy group. But no, the owners of Chelsea have sacked Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel has been sacked. And let me read you this statement, or part of the statement from the owners of Chelsea. This is what they put out on their website, and it says, as the ownership group reaches 100 days since taking over the club, and as it continues its hard work to take the club forward, the owners believe it is the right time to make this transition. On behalf of everyone at Chelsea FC, the club would like to place on record its gratitude to Thomas and his staff for all of their efforts during their time with the club. Thomas will rightly have a place in Chelsea's history after winning the Champions League, the Super Cup, and the Club World Cup in his time here. So there you have it. Thomas Tuchel sacked. He took over from Frank Lampard, I think it was in January 2021, and, guided them to a Champions League final and won it, right? Last season, even though there was all the turmoil going around at, I nearly said Arsenal there, going around at Chelsea, of course, Roman Abramovich got sanctioned because of the war in Ukraine. There was even a time where there was talk that there could be no Chelsea if they don't get a new ownership deal sorted out. With all that going on in the background, he still had to run the team. He got the team to 2 finals, which they both lost on penalties. They lost the League Cup to Liverpool. They lost the FA Cup to Liverpool on penalties. He got them into the top 4 to get Champions League football, despite the club being in utter turmoil. He lost some of his key players at the end of the season in Rudiger and Christensen, Aspilicueta, some of these players that left. And the weird thing about it is that in the summer, he's been allowed to spend all this money, at over £250 million in the transfer window. The biggest spenders were Chelsea. And one of those players that he bought in, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, was definitely his signing, which, remember, they only did on deadline day, right? So they did that one on deadline day. Thomas Tuchel specifically requested the signing of Aubameyang. Aubameyang wanted to come to work with Tuchel, and now Tuchel's gone. I mean, it's crazy. A crazy, crazy situation. But then we know how Chelsea operate. We know how Chelsea move. If you don't deliver on the results, you're out of a job. It's been a really up and down start to the season for Chelsea. They had that, what I thought was a great performance against Tottenham, but it only ended up in a draw. They should have won the game. They only ended up in a draw that game. They lost away to Leeds, which was a really poor performance. And they lost to Southampton. And losing again to Zagreb, I mean, it's just not been a great start to the season. There's rumours now that there's been a little bit of angst in the dressing room with Thomas Tuchel and some of the players. Certainly some of the mainstays at Chelsea, players like Mason Mount, have just not been performing for quite a while now. There was the big fallout with Lukaku last season. Werner's gone. Some of the players that they invested a lot of money in, gone. I mean, it's just a bit of a mess at Chelsea, and I want to get your guys' opinion on what do you make of this sacking? Do you think Chelsea have done the right thing here? Or do you think these new owners, Todd Bowley and the new American owners, just do not know what they're doing? Because, let's be real, Thomas Tuchel is among some of the elite managers that are around in European football. Who are they going to get in to replace him? And there's a lot of talk already at the moment. Pochettino, ex-Tottenham manager, PSG was on the same path really as Tuchel, is being linked with the job. But is that a downgrade? I wouldn't class Pochettino as an elite manager. I don't know what you guys think, but he's been linked. Zidane has been linked. Could they tempt Zinedine Zidane to come to Chelsea? Graham Potter of Brighton has been linked. Would he be the right man? We've all been singing his praises and saying what a great job he's doing at Brighton, but would he be the right guy to control some of those mega egos that are in that Chelsea dressing room? And if you're a Chelsea fan, what's going on? Are you happy with what's going on? Are you happy with this sacking? Do you think it was the right thing to do? Do it early and let's move on if you're a Chelsea fan. I really, really want to hear from you guys and let us know. Lots of comments are coming in already. Let me see if I can get into some of them. But as I said, he has been sacked out of a job. And also, if you're not a Chelsea fan, what do you think? Do you think to yourself, what? Chelsea's just like a crazy club, the way they operate. Just sacking managers left, right and centre. Of course, Chelsea fans would argue that it's been successful. Definitely under Roman Abramovich. The policy often shocked us. We all remember when Di Matteo, he won the Champions League, he got sacked. But it's worked. Look at the amount of things that Chelsea have won in that Abramovich area. Is this what Bowley's looking to do himself? Or do you think he's just being a B-Tech Abramovich? I mean, I want to hear from as many as you as possible. So, let's get some of these comments coming in. Got one here from Daniel Hammett. He says, whichever manager they bring in will have to be one that plays a back five, and that is how their summer window has been built. That's a great point. He's going to have to probably play a back five. Pochettino, if it is Pochettino, he doesn't play a back five. So there's going to be a big adaptation there. Kirakos says, I hope Potter doesn't go. He's a proper manager, and Chelsea are a joke of a club. They'll probably expect instant results when he's more of a long-term manager. Now, that's a really great point. I was talking about this earlier with Graham Potter. I think Graham Potter would be an excellent appointment because I think this guy has got it in him to be an excellent manager. You see the brilliant work that he's done at Brighton, but that's Brighton. When you go to Chelsea, obviously it's a bigger stage. Now, would Bowley, the owners of Chelsea, give Graham Potter enough time to succeed at Chelsea? Because I think he's a manager. If you give him time, the way he plays football, the way he thinks about football, I think he can have a big job. But he can only get a big job if you give him time. It's a bit like my club, Arsenal. You've seen Mikel Arteta come in. He's now into his third year at Arsenal, right? Now, many other big clubs might have sacked him. They might have said, well, you didn't get into the top four over the past couple of seasons, so you're gone. But sometimes you've got to give a manager a time to bring in his players, to develop the players that are there, to, develop his style of football. Will they do that with a Graham Potter at Chelsea? And also, could Graham Potter handle that size of job? It's a big job, Chelsea. It's not Brighton. I remember last season at Brighton, there was a little period when Brighton were going through a little tough time. They weren't winning games at home. And their fans, I think it was one game where their fans were booing the players. And Graham Potter turned around to them and had a go at the fans and said, listen, remember who we are. Remember, And the fans all got behind him and, they're patient there because it's a smaller. But at Chelsea, you've only got to lose a couple of games and your job is under threat. Seriously under threat. You could be gone if you lose that third game. And that ain't no joke. So would he be able to manage that? Could he manage the egos? We've seen it. We've seen it at Chelsea, even in recent times. Thomas Tuchel having to deal with Lukaku, who goes off to Italy and goes and gives this big interview that destabilizes the dressing room, mashes up the relationship between him and Lukaku. He had to deal with that, Tuchel. He had to deal with, you've got big players there in that dressing room that are not playing. Look at their squad. Big players. Let's just say, I don't know, Potter comes in and he's playing Cucurella, who came from Brighton. But then Ben Chilwell rocks up in the office and says, Gaffer, how comes I'm not playing? I think I should be playing. I think I'm good enough to play. You've got to manage all those big egos. It's a completely different club to Brighton. So would he be able to handle that? That is a thing. But certainly I think he would be a good manager. I really do. HH, who's a Chelsea fan here, he says, Poch to replace Tuchel, what a downgrade. And, I agree with that. I don't think, you can really put Pochettino in the same bracket as a Thomas Tuchel. I think Thomas Tuchel is, I would class Thomas Tuchel in the group of elite managers. I would class him in that. I don't put Pochettino in that. I put Pochettino as a really good manager, but he's not in one of the elite. He went to PSG, and let's be honest, it failed for him there. I know people are going to turn around and say it also failed for Tuchel, but I think Tuchel did better at PSG. Got them to a Champions League final, won more trophies, and then he's gone and won the Champions League at Chelsea. So I don't think you can say, I agree with you, that's a downgrade. That definitely is a downgrade. Joseph says, Poch will not constantly play a back five and will bore us. Agil says, Tuchel will be Spurs manager within 2 years. Well, I don't think, you couldn't discount that because, they've got Conte, who was previously at Chelsea. Velen V says, I'd rather get Ty to manage us than Pochettino. Jeez. Of course, there's that Tottenham connection. But listen, Tottenham have got Conte, haven't they? Their fans are not moaning. They're happy about that now. The African Charles says, Tuchel's system wastes strikers who are being brought in with a lot of money. Arteta would have been gone a long time ago. Chelsea want trophies, no time to waste. But that was under Abramovich, African Child. That was under Abramovich, and he made that work. Are you confident that under Todd Bowley that it will work, this policy of sacking managers? Are you confident that that will work? By the way, we're running a poll at the moment. Who will be Chelsea's next manager? We've got three names, the three main names that are in the frame right now. Pochettino, Graham Potter, and Zinedine Zidane. At the moment, it's 18% for Zidane. Graham Potter's got 40%. 42% is going for Pochettino. So Pochettino just edging it at the moment. But yeah. Todd Miller, who is a massive Chelsea fan, he says, I hate today so much. New Banter Club FC. He's very unhappy. And I know Todd is a passionate Chelsea fan. Who would you like to see next, Todd? I'd be really interested to know. Pran says Zinedine Zidane can't speak English and he's waiting for the France job. That might be a shout. And then there was, remember, when he was getting heavily linked with Manchester United, there was the fact that his wife says she doesn't really want to come to this country because of the weather and stuff like that. They must have somebody lined up. When I think about it, for them to have sacked Tuchel like this, I think they must have somebody lined up to take over that job. Because if not, it's a bit of a strange one. There is a rumour that they were intending to sack him regardless of last night's result. That's one of the rumours that are going around. But if that's true, then why let him even go and do that game? It doesn't make any sense. Big up to Lions Den, who's just joined as a new member. Remember, you can get membership here on DR Sports. Gives you a lot of priority access to things. So big up to Lions Den, who's just become a new member. And remember, you can become a member here on the channel. So do that right now if you can. Mick Anderton says, Woods Khalif says, who? Pochettino? And he's obviously not happy about that. Ben Wheeler says, come out from Matt Law that it wasn't based on the results, but behind the scenes. Gutted about him leaving as he's been great. Have to get Potter. Yes, there are some journalists saying that, there's some things that have been going on behind the scenes. It's got to be something like that. But then why would they even let him do the game yesterday then? And I'm not 100%... You know what? If it's behind the scenes stuff that has caused this, then you've also got to look at the owners of the club. Yeah? You have to look at them, in my opinion, because if things have been brewing up from behind the scenes, why give him so much money to spend during the summer transfer window? And yes, I know that a lot of football clubs now, when they're buying players, it's a combination of the manager and, the management team. I get that. But the Aubameyang signing was definitely a Thomas Tuchel signing. He wanted Aubameyang. They needed a striker. He wanted Aubameyang, right? Aubameyang's worked with him before at Borussia Dortmund. He came out a few weeks ago and was very open with it and said, listen, I love Aubameyang. I'd love to work with this guy again. I think he's, we had a great relationship. He's a goal scorer. Aubameyang came to Chelsea because of Tuchel, and Tuchel requested him. Why do all that if you're then going to sack the guy the week after? It makes no sense. So then if they knew that there was problems behind the scenes, the owners, get rid of him, earlier. So that the new guy who's coming in, it will be his signings. Now, you might get someone who comes in now who's not really feeling Aubameyang. We saw the problems that, that Aubameyang had at Arsenal. A new person may not be feeling Aubameyang. It's really is a strange one to try and work out exactly how it's all gone down. Todd Miller, back again, Chelsea fan. He says, at this point, just give us Brendan Rodgers. He says, we deserve it. And by the way, I thought Rodgers would have got sacked long before Tuchel. He says, I've never been an out guy, but at this point, this new ownership is a disgrace. Loan me to AS Roma for the season so I can be with Jose. It's a crazy situation, and the owners, I don't think, come out of this looking very great. Velen V also says, Poch is a bottle job. Conte is a winner. Of course Spurs fans are happy with Conte. Who would want a bottler? Arsenal fans must understand bottle jobs. Thank you very much, mate. God's Will Godwin says, something went wrong beyond our knowledge, I reckon. Could be, but again, as I said, that if these things are going wrong behind the scenes, why then give him money to bring in Aubameyang? Why go and get Aubameyang? Go, it's weird. Sadiq says, this was unexpected after they backed him in the transfer window. I have a feeling that the next manager will be an American, Jesse Marsh. That would not go down well with Chelsea fans, I can tell you that. Sing is King says, Ole for Chelsea manager. They're taking a mick now. They really are taking a mick. I mean, it's not a great situation at Chelsea. It's a weird one. I really does see it as a weird one. And yeah, Ted Lasso is the fourth name on the shortlist, says Philippi. Le Quienta says, this is why Chelsea will never be a big club. Majid Ahmed says, Dyche in. He'd know how to play five at the back, that's for sure. McNally 145 says, make no mistake about Tuchel, he's still a world-class manager, and I don't think he'll have any trouble getting a job. Funny enough, RB Leipzig, they sacked their manager. They got a bad defeat against Shakhtar Donetsk last night. They sacked their manager as well. Rico 799 says, no way Poch would take the Chelsea job, risking his reputation on Tottenham fans. whilst he might be get the sack in 2 years. But listen, if the price is right, I think he will take the job. He will take that job. And, you know, Conte, who's a legend at Chelsea, he brought the title to Chelsea. Where is he? He's at Tottenham. Yeah? Jose Mourinho, massive legend. Absolute, probably not probably, the most legendary Chelsea manager ever went to Tottenham. So why couldn't Pochettino take that job? I'm sorry, there's no loyalty in football. He would take the job. But Aubameyang's at Chelsea right now, and he's got an Arsenal tattoo on his arm. Listen, there's no loyalty. The guys are saying, imagine Potter goes to Chelsea after he just bought Billy Gilmour from them. Fans were upset with Billy Gilmour when he was going to Brighton. That's another thing. They had this policy during the, and big up to AMT, who's just become a member as well. Thank you very much, AMT. They had this policy at Chelsea during the summer of buying all these young players for a lot of money. Is the new guy, when he comes in, going to be able to develop these players? That's another question. Again, what sort of manager are they looking for? You know? McNally145 says Potter needs to be long-term. Assurances he needs to get as well. Don't think he'd take the job, considering they sacked Tuchel 18 months after they won the Champions League. I mean, what is success for Chelsea? If you're doing that job interview, I mean, that would be the question I'd be asking. I'd be like, well, what do you want me to achieve in the time that I'm going to be here? Because are they asking for the impossible from these managers? You know, it's really hard to work out what they're after. Pran says, imagine Conte at Spurs and Poch at Chelsea. Well, we might get that. AKA Barella says, Arsenal will be 6th by Christmas. Print this in gold. He's, I know you're hurting because Tuchel's gone. Anthony Tio 1993 says, Bowley appoints himself. FIFA 2022-23 starting now. He wouldn't put it past it, I'll tell you. Oh, my God. I was chatting to Sophie. Big up to Sophie earlier on. I was chatting to her, and she's absolutely gutted and appalled by the sacking of Thomas Tuchel. She's really angry about it. So I don't think this has gone down very well with Chelsea fans. Shehoz says, this is why Chelsea is a big club. They're ruthless. Yeah, but it all depends who you bring in, Sheroz. And also, Sheroz, what I'd say to you is that that was under Abramovich, but he always had another plan. And I'm not saying that this guy Bowley's not going to have a plan. He might do. But he always had a plan, didn't he? He always had a plan to bring in someone really, where the Chelsea fans would be like, okay, fair enough. He got rid of Lampard, he brought in Tuchel, won the Champions League. Is it going to be the same for this guy? That's what I'm saying. Bowley, yeah, you're being ruthless. Because even, I have to say, like, even in the transfer window, some of the buys and that, I've been a bit baffled. Cucurella, did they need Cucurella for £62 million when they had Ben Chilwell? Little things like that. I've just been like, did you only go and get him because Man City were after him, and then you've rushed in and got him? So Mike Keegan tweeted, I was going to go through his tweet here. He says, on Chelsea, the Tuchel departure is set to cost Chelsea around £15 million. Crazy. They aim to have a replacement in before the Fulham game, which is on Saturday, of course. Big game, West London, a tough game as well. Potter is their number one target, is what he's saying. Decision was made before last night's defeat, which again, I've been hearing that a lot. And form at the end of last season was poor, and they've been unhappy. They've got an unhappy camp, and all of those things have to be taken into account. And that's what Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail is reporting. So Potter, the number one target. If he comes in, I want to hear from Chelsea fans. Would you be happy with Graham Potter? Do you think Graham Potter is the guy to take Chelsea forward? As I said, I think Graham Potter is a really good manager. But remember, he's never won anything. He never won anything in his career. never managed these big egos, and big players that he's going to have in the Chelsea dressing room. He's never had to deal with the pressure of managing a club like Chelsea, where I said, lose a couple of games and people are already talking about your job. Everything you do at a club like Chelsea is under scrutiny. Everything. Every press conference. You can do a press conference for Brighton and say a couple of little things. No one even hear about it. Say the same things at Chelsea. It could be on the front page in the newspaper, right? It's a different job entirely. So, and then you're going to have to follow the guy that's just been sacked, Tuchel. He won the Champions League. Was it the World Club Cup, the Super Cup? He got to 2 finals last year. I know he lost that. Even in his first season, he got to a final, FA Cup. There's a lot to follow. The expectations on you is completely different. Fabrizio Romano tweeted, he said, Chelsea have approached Graham Potter as one of the candidates to replace Thomas Tuchel. He's not the only one on the list, including 4 candidates. Todd, I keep saying Ted. Todd Boehly will continue talks in the next hours to find a replacement. So they haven't even got a replacement lined up. Again, that's a bit of a surprise. That, if the plan was to sack him, as the last journalist was saying, even regardless of the result of Dynamo Zagreb, why not have somebody lined up before that game? It's an important game in the Champions League. I don't know, man. It seems a bit of a mess at Chelsea. I'm just being real right now. Let's get into some more of your comments. AMT says, everyone says Arteta will be sacked before this type of world-class manager. What a joke. Velen V says, I like Potter, but he screams of Moyes at Manchester United. Which again, basically similar to what we were saying, was a manager that we all thought was going to be ready for that really big job, but wasn't. Ambassa says, how would you feel Arsene Wenger to Chelsea? I couldn't imagine that. O'Malley says, how much would Chelsea have to pay Brighton for the transfer of Potter? Brighton are shrewd negotiators. Well, I'm sure Brighton will be looking for a big compensation package. But listen, the way Chelsea have been throwing away money, it wouldn't surprise me. This guy, Casey Evans, tweets, £150 million on defenders and still leaking goals. Only one man for the job, Sean Dyche. What about Thomas Frank at Brentford? He's another manager that I really, really like as well. Another manager that I think will be up for a big job. Frank says loyalty definitely exists in football, just not at Chelsea. He says, lovely days these are. So he's saying no loyalty at Chelsea. Jerry31 says, Tuchel has not been backed. Remember, 90% of the signings have been Boehly signings. He sacked Marina and Cech, and he's currently the interim sporting director. And that's very true. That's what I'm saying at the moment. Listen, when Abramovich was there, he may have been ruthless, but he had football people in place. Like Marina and Cech, making those signings, going out. This guy, Todd Boehly's taken over everything. And some of the signings, as I said, that have been made for mega money, I'm not sure if those signings... I mean, did they need some of these, AMTB says, maybe Boehly gets his advice from Roman. Well, I don't think so. Roman Abramovich has been sanctioned, and no one's going to go right near him right now, that's for sure, Keep those comments coming in. Cliff YNWA says, obviously Liverpool fan, he says, Sam Allardyce incoming. Alan G says, I can see Zidane jumping on it. Opportunity to prove his stock and to compete with Guardiola, Klopp, Conte and Arteta. I can't see Zidane. I think there was a guy earlier on who was saying that he's probably waiting on that France job, which I think after the World Cup will become available. I could see more waiting on that. Kay says, love Tuchel for what he did for my club, but honestly, I wasn't a fan of his tactics for like a year now. Maybe now we can play more attacking, fluid football and not just free at the back and relying on wing-backs to get the goals. And that's true. His style was sometimes deemed to be a bit negative. And we know that Graham Potter, if he is the guy that comes in, is a very positive manager. Assassin6 says, Potter can't guarantee that he'll be able to work with the Chelsea team. So I think he should stay at Brighton, where he's doing so well. Secondly, it will make sense if he leaves next season. Money talks. And also, if you're Graham Potter, an opportunity, if Chelsea come to Graham Potter and offer him that job, I would be absolutely shocked if he turns it down. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for a manager like Graham Potter. You know what I mean? It's the big step up that this guy, he's been in management now for a little while. He's done it the hard way. He went to Östersunds over in Sweden. He took them from the 4th division to the 1st division, right? He landed a job at Brighton. He's done brilliantly with Brighton, keeping them in the Premier League with little resources, you know, and really running the club really, really well. If this job opportunity comes now to take on over at Chelsea and manage players like Mason Mount and Aubameyang and all these big stars, Raheem Sterling, you know, Koulibaly, Fofana, all these guys, right? You're not going to turn that down. You know, pit your wits in the Champions League, be able to go toe-to-toe with Pep Guardiola and you know, Arteta and Conte, Klopp, with the knowing that you've got the resources behind you. You're not turning that job down. You'd have to be crazy. So I think if the number one target is Graham Potter, I think he'll take it. I'll be shocked if he doesn't take the job. But would you be happy with Graham Potter, Chelsea fans? And I think the issue for me, I think Graham Potter would do a good job at Chelsea. I really do. But, and this is a big but, he has to be given time. He has to be given time. I think he's, for me, you know, the guys asking me, like, who do you think's the best for the job? I think he would be the best for the job if he was given time. But I don't think he's going to get given the time. So then I actually think he could be one of the worst candidates for the job because he's not going to be given no time. We know what Chelsea are like. We've seen what Bowley's done now with Tuchel. We've seen some of the erratic spending and bit of madness that's going on around Chelsea. If by the end of, let's just say, if Graham Potter comes in and even by Christmas, it was looking like they might not make the Champions League, his job will be under threat already. He might not even make it to the end of the season. That's how ruthless it is at Chelsea. So because they wouldn't give him the time, I don't think it's going to be a good appointment. If he's given the time, great appointment. If he's not given the time, poor appointment. Then you're better off going for someone who's going to maybe bring something more instant. But then who is that candidate? Because even Pochettino, he's not exactly a serial winner, is he? I know he won the league at PSG. I could do that with Messi and, you know, Mbappe and, you know, Neymar and all those players that I was watching last night. They're absolutely a million miles above every other team, you know, in that French league and could virtually manage himself to win that, you know? But he's not a serial winner. But he's a bigger name, and I guess now he's had experience in managing those bigger players. He managed bigger players at Tottenham. He's managed the ultimate players at PSG, even though he didn't do such a great job. So I don't know. It's an interesting one, but I just feel that, listen, there's no way Graham Potter was going to turn it down, I don't think. But is he going to be the right man? Are they going to give him the time to do that job properly? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But Beth Jenkins says, give the job to Dennis Weiss. Ray says, Aubameyang is cursed. Problems after problems. Imagine the reason he accepted to come to Chelsea was because of Tuchel. Cassador says, respect to League One. League Earn, listen, I do respect it. But I'm just saying that, it's, come on. PSG, look at their team. They're going to win that league every single year. Kimmy says, Thomas Tuchel doesn't mean that he won't give Potter time. He could see Thomas Tuchel was done, correct decision was made, correct decision, and we also will give Potter time. You won't. Sorry. Just look at the history of Chelsea, even now followed through by the new guy. He will not get... Listen, if are you... Sorry about that. We had a little audio issue. But just going back to the point that I was making to Kimmy. And let me just remind you of the message that Kimmy said. He said, just cause Todd sacked Thomas Tuchel doesn't mean that he won't give Potter time. He could see that Thomas Tuchel was done. Correct decision was made. Correct decision would also be to give Potter time. And I'm saying that he ain't going to give time, right? And Kimmy, what I'm saying is this. If you get to the end of this season, Graham Potter takes over and Chelsea finish 5th out of the Champions League places, I'm willing to bet you right now, right, that he would be sacked. Even after just one season, he would be sacked. So it's a different... there's no patience at Chelsea. There is absolutely no patience. Maybe what Todd Bowley should be thinking of is changing that and saying to himself, right, you know what? We're going to come with a new ethos now at Chelsea, and we are going to show a bit of patience. We're going to do it in a different way. We're going to give Graham Potter the job, and we're going to give him, a 3-year plan or something like that. But I suspect that he just would not get the time if he didn't do it straight away. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Chelsea have got off to a bit of a shaky start, both in the Champions League and in the Premier League. Listen, it's still very early. They've got ages to retrieve the situation. But it's going to be tough. So, patience. Something that doesn't really exist at Chelsea. Danson says, I feel sorry for Aubameyang. How must he be feeling, Aubameyang, if he's gone there for, you've gone there for that. And, Tamo says, the Croatian league, and then he's got arrows to the Premier League. He's comparing the two of them. Listen, I think they said yes in yesterday's game. Chelsea spent over £250 million in the transfer market. Dinamo Zagreb spent £6 million. That's why it's such a shock that they lost that game. Rizwan says, the wheels are coming off at Chelsea and it's about time. Chelsea are a small club with oil daddy money. Arsenal and Man U are real winners here. Well, it depends who they get in. It really does depend who they get in. Jacob is also saying that Fabrizio Romano reporting that Potter is Chelsea's priority. Give the job to Pep Linders. The man's intensity will do well, says Torlis. Viper says Chelsea want fast success. They brutally sacked their own legend without loyalty or consideration. Karan says, cheap laughs from a Europa League boy. Well, listen, you might be joining us soon if you don't get things sorted out, losing into Dinamo Zagreb. And I'll tell you what, I've been there, and that's a very hostile ground to go to. So, you've got to be on it. And some of Tuchel's little comments after the game were a little bit strange. And there are players, when you look around that Chelsea team, there are players that have not really been performing. As I said, guys like Mason Mount that are normally, that guy's always like a 7 out of 10 plus for Chelsea. He's not looked like that for ages. He's been poor. And is that because he's not really been getting on with the manager? And this would be the same sort of problems that could be encountered by a manager like Potter. It was said that when Lampard was at Chelsea, he didn't get on with Rudiger, and he didn't have Rudiger in the team, and that caused a lot of disgruntled stuff. And Rudiger wanted to leave at that time, and then Tuchel come in. great relationship with Rudiger, and Rudiger was a brilliant player, and that's been a big loss to Chelsea. And then the other thing is as well, like he's brought in new players like Fofana and, you know, these guys. I mean, you've got to give them time to gel. Fofana and Koulibaly, that's sort of like the first time they're playing together last night. You've got to give them a chance to gel. It's crazy. Akash says, Tuchel, next Spurs manager after Conte and Mourinho. You never, ever know, and he might even do that as a bit of revenge, you know. Quincy says, Rory Jennings to be the next Chelsea manager. That'd be a good shout. Big up Rory. Patrick Vieira to Chelsea, says Tristan. Oh, no, I wouldn't want to see that. Although I think he'd do a fantastic job. Actually, that's a great shout. You know, why is nobody, when you think about that, why are they not considering somebody like a Patrick Vieira? I think he would make I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't like to see that, but that's a great shout. The Slayer 97 says, if you're managing big players, you have to do big things, and Poch never did that at the clubs that he's managed, to be honest. A Champions League final isn't much unless you win the thing. Ooh. So he's not unconvinced with Pochettino. But this guy here, simply, he says Pochettino to Chelsea. So, you know, a lot of you having it. But the poll has said that Tuchel is the preferred guy that you guys would like to get in. Rushad says transfer windows should apply to managers as well. That would be interesting if you had to keep hold of a manager until the end of the transfer window. No, you could have a revolt in a club then. I'm going to do a couple more before we go. Let me see if I can get a couple that are different to some of the ones that have been mentioned already. Rico799 says, Potter has more power at Brighton. Look at Correa. He turned the guy from a centre-back to a left-back to a great left winger. JT Dehaney says, Aubameyang was gassed to play with Tuchel again, and he's got laughing emojis. Tomo says, Orisic, the living nightmare to all London clubs. He was brilliant yesterday. Reza says, what about Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank? Quincy says, Scott Parker is available. They're taking a mick now. Scott Phoenix says, Marcelo Bielsa would suit them perfectly. I heard him mention today. Nah, I mean, it'd be great football, though. It'd be great football. And Tracy says, it wouldn't be smart for Potter to go because he would lose the respect from the Brighton fans and possibly lose the respect from the Chelsea fans if they didn't make the top four. I don't think he'd lose the respect of the Brighton fans. And Pranley says, John Terry is at the club. Also, Rooney is available. Gosh, I don't think they're going to go down that Legends route again. So listen, in conclusion, Thomas Tuchel, TT, has been sacked. He's gone. Chelsea have sacked Thomas Tuchel. They issued this statement this morning as the new ownership reaches 100 days since taking over the club. And as it continues its hard work to take the club forward, the new owners believe it is the right time to make this transition. On behalf of everyone at Chelsea FC, the club would like to place on record its gratitude to Thomas and his staff for all of their efforts during their time with the club. Thomas will rightly have a place in Chelsea's history after winning the Champions League, the Super Cup, and the Club World Cup in his time here. Thomas Tuchel, who took over on the 26th of January 2021, replacing Frank Lampard, has been sacked. Favourite to get the job right now is Graham Potter. Pochettino, favourite with some fans as well. Who's going to get the Chelsea job? Who's going to be the next Chelsea manager? The rumours are we will know before Saturday, which is when they take on Fulham in the 12:30 kickoff. Big game that now. We will know by that game. But Chelsea have sacked Thomas Tuchel. Don't forget to subscribe here to DR Sports. Become a member so you can get all your notifications and get early access to a lot of our content. But Thomas Tuchel is no more. Check us out tonight, by the way. We're going to be doing some more Champions League games. I'm going to be in the studio today hosting those. We've got some big games coming up. Yeah, I know, Spurs playing against Marseille is one of them. Liverpool's trip to Napoli as well. So check it out here, live in the studio here on DR Sports. But once again, the big news, breaking news today is Thomas Tuchel has been sacked as manager of Chelsea Football Club.